libation.
May we always remember those who have gone before us. May we be inspired by their vision and valor. May their lives continuously remind us that service is more important than success, that people are more important than possessions, that principle is more important than power. May whatever we do be shaped and molded by honesty, competence, and commitment. May our children and our children's children carry forth with pride the nobility of our history and tradition. To the Creator of all of us, we dedicate our lives to make this world better and more beautiful. Ashé.
To be, to become, to ignite. A spark rising across oceans and lifetimes, yielding progress and power with purposeful precision, commanding change. Bright illuminating ancestral spark, sacred breath-blown sovereignty, inspiring insight to innovate, to see beyond, to invoke meaning in the moments, the ability to be more, to vision the future, to make things happen. And we say, Ashé.
This beginning was like so many other beginnings. A start with empty space. Empty space ready to be filled by a team of excited people ready to build a home for culture. It's been said that the journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with one step. A small community took a step into the possibility of a future that could create a cultural energy that could assist and support all of the fabulous things that happen here in New Orleans. And we find ourselves now 20 years later, having seen and done and been and invested in so many things, so many people.
Working with what some people would call folk artists, some people would call street artists, but basically, like you say, another kind of artist. Did working with them do something for you that you don't think you was getting at Dillard or someplace else?
It did, because what it did was made me understand the connection between art and community, right? We were, during the 60s and the 70s, everybody was looking at Africa and trying to find a context on which they could live and grow and do their work. And everything we heard about Africa was that the artists were an essential part of the community. You didn't create outside your community. You just didn't create art for art, right? Whatever you created was a part of the community you lived in. And I think Tamarine and Fan and the cultural elements in the city, the Indians and second line groups, afforded me the opportunity to feel and understand that really in a true context, because you were essentially creating for the community.
I had an opportunity to visit Ashé for one of its Holiday on the Boulevard events, and that was probably my first time where I really got sort of immersed into what Ashé Cultural Arts Center was about and what it offered.
The most memorable experience I had there, and most moving, was when the Freedom Riders completed their journey to New Orleans. And I guess it probably would have been in 2011 as a part of the 50th anniversary. Remember the Freedom Rides from 1961 got interrupted in Alabama when racists stormed the buses, burned the buses, beat the Freedom Riders. So they never really completed their journey down to New Orleans, which was supposed to be the final destination. And in 2011, a lot of those original riders got the chance to complete that ride with young people. And rather than ending at the bus station, the Union passenger station, they came to Ashé and debarked from there. And then they had a gathering where people talked and celebrated and talked about this completion of this 50-year journey.
I don't like telling Katrina stories, but right after Katrina, if you needed a mattress, you could go by Ashé, they had some. If you needed a refrigerator, you could go by Ashé, they had some.
I believe that if you say that you are for equality, then you must walk that walk. You must help people make a space to understand that their personal heritage is significant, that they have something to say, that their inspiration is a piece of the divine.
You get a moment in time in a city where no one is almost willing to argue with you that racism is alive and well. You have the opportunity to just savor that moment and go on, or you have the opportunity to grab the moment and try to get something more out of it.
In college, you are confined to a certain environment, right? You're in a certain kind of way, you're confined to what's there and what you're being taught in terms of painting and design and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the cultural element in New Orleans is so rich, and they produce their own artists. Mm-hmm. People who grow up in the culture, and really, you know, in a certain kind of way, the most important artist for myself in the city wasn't somebody I met at Dillard, but it was somebody I met through Tamarina Fan, who was Melvin Reed. You know, and the brother is a brilliant artist, right? I mean, he could take anything and create something.
In our everyday everything, culture is a part of it. Our youth, through our Kuumba Institute, becoming strong and saying, I am Kuumba, I am creativity, I am Kuumba, a sense of who they are. Our programs have brought the world to us. People have learned and heard about the work we're doing here at Ashé Cultural Arts Center. As a result of that, they seek us out. When there was a disaster in Japan, Japan wanted to know, how did Ashé help in the recovery of New Orleans after the hurricane? And we went to them at their request to show them how culture was the bridge.
Many people know that Doug Red and Carol B. Bell co-founded Ashé Cultural Arts Center, but one person whose name does not get thrown out regularly is that of developer Kathy LeBoard. And she was very, very instrumental in helping Carol and Doug to see how art, community, and culture could come together and turn that into commerce. They were able to purchase the building that began Ashé and begin this great story that we're celebrating here now, 20 years later.
And basically, if you choose to work as an artist and actually work as an artist, then you got to make money doing this.
One of my jobs cut me back to 9 hours a week, which they kept me at until July of 2006. The other job, which was a Reggio Emilia preschool, didn't reopen. The person who owned it had evacuated to Texas and decided to stay there. So while this was going on and I was trying to figure out what to do in New Orleans, Carol B. Bell was systematically going through contact information for every artist who had ever worked at Ashé. And so during this time, she reached out to me. She wanted to know if I was all right. She wanted to know where I was, what had happened. And when I told her what was going on with my economic situation, she said, well, why don't you just come and work for us and do what you do for the other arts organization? Why don't you do it here? And I said, sure, that would be great. And then a little while later, she reached out again as we were working out start date and all that for when I would begin being employed. And she contacted me to tell me that she had secured an account at Hope Community Credit Union for me, that she had done that for, I don't even know how many artists she did that for. I know it's over 100.
When I was working for Ashé, And I decided that I wanted to start my own business. Ashé and Mama Carol still were of support of that. So even from branching off into starting my own business and stepping into my Kuja Chagalia, Ashé has been there. Whether it's to recommend me for jobs or to hire me as a photographer or videographer, to buy some of my art, to provide me with a platform to show my art, a space to host events that could bring more awareness to the work I'm doing. I appreciate all the things that Ashé is doing, and I hope to see, and I'll work to see that Ashé is able to continue this work from the young people I'm working with, and to really motivate the community to continue to invest in Ashé.
Ashé were the first people to pay me to write a poem. They were the first place where I felt like, who I was and the things that I cared about and the people I cared about were truly respected and elevated in a way that I had never seen in any other kind of institution, be it educational or artistic or anything like that.
Ashé Cultural Arts Center is a significant driver in New Orleans' local economy. Since 2008, the organization has been fiduciary for 21 different partnerships and projects valued at approximately $783,000. Since 2011, 37 youth were employed by Ashé in various summer programs, earning over $136,000. Since 2010, 67 apartment residents were served through Ashé's participation in affordable housing programs. Since 2005, Ashé Cultural Arts Center has brought over $22 million into the local economy, of which approximately $1 million was earned from the state of Louisiana, and $3 million of which came from the city of New Orleans. Nearly $5 million translated into employee salaries. Another $5 million became compensation for professional services from performing and visual artists, musicians, educators, and culture bearers.
Amazingly, annually, given the small staff that Ashé Cultural Arts Center has, the entity produces more than 1,500 events every year. And over the past 20 years, that has resulted into more than 100,000 visits.
This journey of 20 years has been made possible by a dream team. Board, staff, volunteers, and supporters. An engine that could and continues to chug along, creating the flurry of events and activities and opportunities at Ashé Cultural Arts Center. Without them, there would be no Ashé. And so we learn again the lesson that we is stronger than I or me.
Sacred space, where the city finds its center. On that boulevard of remember, we find you. Culture rising from deep beneath your bones, deep inside your exposed walls, reminding us of what it takes to be bold and beautiful. Dancing across blackness and brilliance, offering color and communion to each of those who cross its threshold. Layered in love, for every soul, young and old, believing in the power of possibility, here find sanctity. You who pound feet into the ground. You, architect of feather and crown. You who dare to make sound with hands and words and movement, magic and music. You, revolutionary in the art of remembrance and resistance. You are welcome here. Here, find home. And we say, Ashé.